Hey guys, welcome to Pixel Cherry Ninja's channel. In this video today, we are talking about Pyrite64, an open source game engine for the Nintendo 64. Now, Nintendo 64 has been getting a lot of love, like especially in the last year, we've had a lot of decomps, recomps that have turned into PC ports. My favorite one that I really enjoy playing, and I think that's the best way to actually play that game, is Star Fox, or if you're from Europe, Lilac Wars, as we knew it here in London, UK. Really good. Recently we got Banjo-Kazooie. I tried that out, and yes, it was really nicely done. You can get stuff like HD textures for them, and they just look absolutely superb in ultra wide screen, a really high frame rate, a frame rate that the Nintendo 64 could not achieve even on devices like the Mr. FPGA and the Analog 3D, where turbo mode is activated. So on the subject of FPGA gaming devices, the Nintendo 64 has had a lot of love with that side as well, with the Mr. FPGA getting a core, and then the Analog 3D coming out, a dedicated Nintendo 64 FPGA console. As well as that, we have got Mod Retro that are working on the M64. It really amazes me how big the N64 market is. Do we really need this much N64? Well, I guess with stuff like Pyrite coming out, maybe we do, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of homebrew games that we get. Now, I have seen some homebrew games. One of the biggest examples is Portal. That is absolutely amazing. It's difficult to get now because it was DMCA'd, or I think Valve asked the maker of the game just not to release it anymore, not make it publicly available. So that kind of went out. But obviously, if you managed to grab it, or if you nabbed it, you've still got it. I've got a copy of that. Another homebrew game or an aftermarket game was Xeno Crisis. I just thought it was really good. Now, from what I hear, working on the Nintendo 64 is not an easy task. It's not the greatest, or the main software development kit that Nintendo released wasn't the greatest. That was something that was difficult to work with for developers back in the day, but even for people now. So when we get something like Pyrite64, it looks like it's going to make it easy for people to develop games. And it's going to be really interesting to see what the community can come up with as games start getting released, people start leveling up, and the quality just gets better. And we've got different ways of playing them, right? I can play them on a software emulator, I can play on my original Nintendo 64 via an EverDrive or a Summer Card. I can play them on FPGA devices, Mr. Analog 3D, and potentially the M64 in the future. So really good, because what you make with the Pyrite engine are essentially Nintendo 64 games. Anywhere you can play a Nintendo 64 game, whether it's a software emulator, FPGA, wherever the heck you're playing it, original hardware via an EverDrive, it will just work. So that's really cool. So the developer has a YouTube channel, Hell to Do Dongo. Okay, is that how you say it? It's really interesting. So they've shared this video kind of showcasing exactly what it offers, and I think it's really good. So I have made like a little version, which is a simpler version to understand, because sometimes when we look at this stuff, it's very technical, and I'm a layman, and some of you guys are laymen as well. So if you're a layman, stick around. Let's have a look at what this offers. So Pyrite64 is a modern tool that helps people create brand new games for the Nintendo 64 without needing the complicated development setup from the 1990s. In simple terms, it's a beginner friendlier way to make Nintendo 64 games that actually run on original hardware. Pyrite64 is an open source engine and visual editor. It gives developers a more modern workflow while still producing genuine N64 ROMs. That means games made with it can run on a real Nintendo 64 console, work in accurate Nintendo 64 emulators, behave like an authentic Nintendo 64 title. It's not just making games that look like Nintendo 64 games, but it is the real thing. You know, we get those games, it has the aesthetic of a Nintendo 64 game, but it's not. A game that comes to mind is that Secret Agent 64, Agent 64 Spies Never Die, like a N64 style modern game. Not like that. These are Nintendo 64 game. So you're probably asking yourself, why does it matter? Why does it matter? Developing for the Nintendo 64 has traditionally been difficult because the original tools were complex, official SDKs are proprietary, setup can be very time consuming, and the documentation is old and fragmented. Pyrite64 aims to remove much of that pain by bundling modern tools into one workflow. Okay, so how development works for this. and this is the simple version. Here's a typical process. Create a project in the Pyrite64 editor, build your level, often using Blender plus Fast64, import models, check textures and assets, add gameplay using C++ and node tools, compile and run on real hardware. Pretty simple, right? If you know a bit of C, you know your way around. I mean, it's not something that I can work on and develop, but it does make it easier for people with an understanding of development. The engine manages most of the heavy technical setup behind the scenes. So what powers the Pyrite64? Pyrite64 is built on well-known open source N64 libraries like Libdragon, which handles low-level N64 hardware access. Then we have Tiny 3D, provides 3D rendering. Because of this, the project avoids using Nintendo's original proprietary SDK. And we know what Nintendo are like, right? They just want to come at you if you mess with any of their stuff whatsoever. So graphics and visual features. Despite the Nintendo 64's limitations, Pyrite64 supports some surprisingly modern effects adapted for the console, such as real-time lighting, bloom effects, HDR style rendering pipeline, optimized 3D graphics. These are carefully designed to still run on original hardware. Who's it for? So Pyrite64 is useful for N64 homebrew developers, retro game enthusiasts, indie developers interested in retro hardware, people who want to learn console level game development. It lowers the barrier to entry but still requires some programming knowledge. Well, the bottom line here, guys, Pyrite64 is essentially a modern development environment for making real Nintendo 64 games. It doesn't emulate the look, it targets the actual hardware. So ensure old console, modern tools, real Nintendo 64 games. It's helping keep the N64 development alive in the homebrew scene, right? So guys, that's kind of it. I gave you a rundown, a simple rundown, which even I understand to some extent. So let me know what you guys think. Do you have a background in development? Are you gonna dabble in this? Is this something that you want to check out? It's very, very interesting indeed, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what comes out from this. I'm definitely going to be trying on FPGA gaming devices as well as software emulation, but yeah, interesting times ahead. N64 gets a lot of love, and I'll say it again, I feel like it's getting too much love. Like, there's other consoles that I prefer, but nonetheless, it's nice to see all of this stuff happening and just making all this stuff super duper easy. Anyway, guys, be freaking awesome to one another. Oh, before I go, guys, I'm just trying to think of like ROM hacks. Someone like Libdragon, the work that they've done transforming Mario Kart into Mario Kart Amped Up. I wonder the kind of stuff they'll be able to do with this open source game engine. Anyway, guys, yeah, for real, be awesome to one another. This is Pixel Cherry Ninja out.